Hello, everybody. This is Nicole Elizabeth, the owner and founder, I guess you could say, of Wyld Wynd, where we focus in assisting small nonprofits and organizations in getting that base foundation and reoccurring funds and learning how to navigate the website and the whole business side of a nonprofit. The statistics state that 2/3 of nonprofits fail. And we're battling against that because there are so many people out here like Mary, my guest today, who have these ginormous hearts and a lot of reasons why they have their mission. And then Wyld Wynd comes in and we say, okay, we're here to support that mission. Wyld Wynd hosts What's Brewing every Saturday morning. So that way we can have these conversations to let people know essentially what our community pillars are doing, which is super important. A lot of times people don't see the personal side of us and how we navigate through managing campaigns and getting the words out there. We just want our people to see a little bit more personal side of us and why we have this ginormous heart and why we have this mission. I'm going to have Mary introduce herself and then we'll get the show on the road. Go ahead, Mary.
Yes, hi, I'm Mary Martinez, and I founded the group called Mothers United Against Gang Violence.
Could you just tell us, let's start off with like a mission moment. Why did you start this, Mary?
I founded the group after a tragedy of losing my own son to gang violence on a weekend visit to Porterville. He was living up in Monterey County at the time with me, and he'd come down to see his little 6-month-old child that had pneumonia. And on that weekend, tragically, we lost him due to gang violence. There were 4 assailants that attacked him, and they shot him 8 times. And it was heartbreaking, very heartbreaking, something that you never get over. And we just try to move through it, through the pain. And so with that, I've seen the need in our area, and gang violence was really growing in Porterville. And I really, really had to pray about this. God instilled in my heart that I could have a voice for my son and also be a support system for other surviving families in the area. So that's what I did. In 2003, 3 months after my son died, we held our first event out in the community park. And from there, baby steps, we started growing. And I actually was blessed that I met a young lady by the name of Debbie Aguilar up in Salinas. And her son actually had been murdered about a year before mine. And the newspaper did a story as I was working at CDCR at the time. I'd only been there 6 months when I lost my son. And it was pretty devastating. I didn't know if I would be able to go back. But you know, with God's grace, I was determined that I was going to make a difference. And working in that system, as you know, you meet and see so many young people coming into the system that are in gangs. So God turned that around, and I was able to develop treatment groups within the prison system. And so from there it grew. I met Debbie. I did my work in Salinas, Monterey County, and I would come and travel to Porterville and do a few events here when I could.
Wow, I think that that right there has such meaning and depth behind it, because we experience these things from a personal side, and then going into an institution, you see it from that side.
Yes.
And they're 2 completely different worlds.
Completely.
And it gives you a little bit of humbleness and grace and acceptance of not really like acceptance, like, okay, this happened, but like, this is how it is. And this is how it is for some people. And a lot of times these people only know what they know. And we
Exactly.
kind of need to break that cycle. And I
Right.
think that might be one of your goals. So if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, seeing so many young people fall into gangs is what actually gave me the passion to want to reach out and prevent gang violence, prevent gang bullying. So we initiated doing all kinds of events in Porterville. And with the blessing, we had an organization also that came to be called Step Up, which was founded in the city of Porterville. And that also was another advocacy group that really worked on encouraging youth to be involved in activities. And so what we did was we grew with that. We went out and participated with Step Up. We met many families on the east side, and we got to talk to many parents along the way. So from that, like I said, baby steps, we kept making ourselves available to people. I took calls from people wanting to know how to get the resources to help their children that may be one step in, one step out. And ironically, many of the mothers would come up to me at a sports event, for instance. My grandson played Little League, and I'd have parents come up to me and say, Mary, I have something I want to talk to you about. Can I ask, what can I do to help my child? I think they're getting involved in gangs. So then we would talk, and one thing led to another, and I would give them the resources I knew about. So it was encouraging that I could help another mother that may be struggling with a child that may be falling to gang violence, and turn that around for something good through
Right.
dance, art, playing sports, that sort of thing.
There are so many resources out there for our youth. And what I've heard back from people is that they really just don't know that those resources are there, or that they're free. And there's this expectation of it's going to cost a lot of money. And it doesn't always necessarily. There are a ton of different free resources for our youth.
Yes, there are.
And everybody has social media. And you can look up just about any organization these days. I know that Wyld Wynd shares out opportunities for the youth all the time. The school districts share them out. All of our major resources share them out. And I know that you do this regularly. It's sadly, but fortunately for others, you have that resource base behind you to help people move forward. So I just want to reiterate that if you are watching this and you feel like my child could be in this situation, there really are people who are out there who want to help and who have the resources to help. And exactly. Right. And the county has so many resources as far as that goes. And speaking of, May is Mental Health Month, but even the resources involved in that, as far as teaching people coping skills, because right. that is ginormous. And like I said before, like, you only know what you know. And once you're in that situation and you see the other side of the gate, right, they really do just need somebody to listen to them. And I was reading a lot of times this molding or shaping or recruiting starts at the age of 7 to go into gangs.
Yes, I learned, I wanted to share something with you. I learned so much when I worked in the prison system. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you that what I learned is so many of them come from families that have had a past with gangs. An uncle, it's a revolving cycle. They think it's normal to be a part of a gang.
Right.
So then what we try to do is encourage those families to break that, being on that roller coaster, and help their kids to have a better quality of life through being involved in sports or any other activity, any talent, anything that they have, that they can encourage their kids not to go that way. Because once they're in, it's very difficult to get out. It's really tragic, but it's very difficult for them to get out. But it can be done. I've met so many young people that are reformed when they've come out of gangs. One of the gentlemen we used at, I don't know if you're familiar with John Zaplak with the Wood Lake. He provided a camping for children in the area, and it was such a grand organization. And we would take kids there, and they didn't have to pay, and it was overnight camping. Well, we met a young man by the name of David Lagoria, and he was so wonderful. He'd come and speak to the children, and he'd been there, done that at the age of 14, and had been locked up in the system for a very long time. In there, he would learn other things, positive means of constructing his life. Ironically, he was determined, I'm not going to be a gang member any longer. So now he's teaching, or he's a counselor in Madera, and he is reaching out to youth there. So very proud to have known him, and he taught me a lot, and he's come on to becoming involved in our group as well. And we've used him as a speaker in the past.
Okay. I was reading somewhere recently, or maybe it was a podcast, so either reading or listening to it. And it explained how, and I'm sure you know this, but I don't think a lot of other people know this. Sorry about that. There are a lot of people that are in the prison system, and there are a lot of people that go that route. They really don't have to. They sit there and say, okay, well, I don't know how to do this, this, and this, but they do. They have the skills to be a good salesman. They have the skills to be a wonderful artist. I mean, the artwork that I've seen come out of there, either writing or drawing or playing music or anything like that, any of those vocational things that they have in there. I've seen it, I've read it, I've witnessed it. And those skills are used every day out here outside the game. So it's like, why aren't we, these humans are perfectly capable of making a really grand life without having to commit a crime or be involved in a gang to do that. And I wish that kids would just have the opportunity to see, okay, I see this on the streets. This is what you said, this is normal. I see people in my family do it every single day. And then, and they think they only know what they know. So they see it, they think it needs to be exactly the same way. It's like, a mechanic raising a mechanic who's going to raise a mechanic who's going to raise a mechanic. Now you have 5 generations of mechanics. So, or seamstresses. We all the women in our family sew. Maybe that skipped a generation, but now I sew, and I'm teaching midget how to sew. So it's like, we only know what we know because that's what we were taught.
Right. So we have to open the doors for our kids and teach them that they can be so much more. And so that's what we do. We bring people to come and talk at the events that we've had, to encourage them and to let them know you have that potential to be whatever you choose to be. And that's my motto. I say, we can save one child at a time. That's been our motto, saving one child at a time. And that is by encouraging them to fulfill whatever gift they have and to bring people on board that can show them the way. And
Right.
so at my events, I have a booth and I set up everything with resources that may be available to them.
Mhm.
And we had a talent show where we had children come and perform. And that was one of the greatest events that we had. We combined it with a car show one year.
Mhm.
It was awesome. And it was during a time that many people were distraught because we had major fires going on all around. And I have to tell you that we had over 2,500 people that showed up for that event. And it was just awesome. And people said, Mary, don't stop doing what you're doing. This was wonderful to see the children dance, to play guitar, to dance folklorico dancing. I mean, it was an awesome event. The parents were rooting for their kids, and you could see the unity of the community coming together. And it was just awesome, to see that during, like I said, one of the worst fires we had around us. But God made it possible for that smoke to uplift and move out of the area. And it was kind of like a miracle. We prayed all night, please let this fire subside and the smoke, and people came out. And it was just great.
It's really funny how things work out like that. Another question that I have for you is, do you have, and I'm sure you do, but could you elaborate a little bit on maybe, I guess I have two questions, on from a parent's perspective, what are things they could look for that might show that their child is starting to get involved in this? I mean, are there triggers? Are there things that they can look for? Like, how does that work?
One of the things that we found is that many children start dropping out of activities they normally were involved in, and they may have an attitude change, hanging out with different kinds of friends. It's so important to know who our kids are hanging out with. And now they have so much on social media, as you know. They have their own way of speaking, that codes, if you will, that we have no idea what those words mean.
Yep.
So it's really important to be aware of what your child has in terms of access to social media that you're observing and watching, and that they aren't doing any kind of gang bullying on social media, which happens a lot. And a lot of it had to do back in the day with clothing and colors.
Yep.
You know, tennis shoes, I was told a certain tennis shoe would signify that they may be getting into a gang. And it's kind of sad, but you have to be aware of what is current. A lot of people have told me in law enforcement that they're changing it up. They're being very discreet of what they wear now. So they're not detected. They're not wearing the bandanas like they used to do, if you remember. Right. So we have to just be cognizant of their behavior. If there's a change, for sure. Different friends, being aware of that is so important. Right. And them not paying attention to school anymore. Maybe they're leaving at a different hour every day, and they're going out to meet their little group of friends. Here for a while, they were actually meeting at the cemetery. That was a meeting place, and I would have never thought that. But I had a sister in the church, and she identified to me, Mary, are you aware that many of them are going out to the cemetery to meet on the east side? I said, heavens, no, I would never have thought that, but they would meet there. And so she would go out and minister to them. When she learned that, and she was a great lady, Pastor Olmedo was very involved with our group. And I give a lot of admiration and respect for him, because he worked in the community with me on my events and helped us to be able to hold them. And his wife was essential. We did a workshop for kids in the summertime, and we had Bible study entwined with it. And we had kids involved in doing artwork and making piñatas and praying together. And so it brought them all, we invoked all of that. So it was wonderful.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I have my second question to you was, now I have a third. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see if I can remember after I'm done with this one, because I've been waiting to ask. I think a lot of times that kids realize once they're in this situation, because it's very gradual on how this starts. And like you said, you're meeting with your friends at the park. And before you know it, there's other people that are meeting there too that might be much older.
Right.
And it kind of just, it takes over and evolves in such a way that you really don't understand, especially when you're 8 years old, especially when you're 12 years old and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened? And now before you know it, everything has changed because you just witnessed something that you probably wouldn't ever had wanted to be a part of, and they use that against you to keep you there, and they make those
Right.
threats. So
Right.
my question to you is this: what would be a good resource to those kids who realize, man, I'm in the wrong spot right now? Because they all go through that.
They do.
When they realize I can go left or I can go right. Like, I have to make that decision right now. What do I do? And you know they're scared because they've heard or seen others be threatened. They don't want to be in that same position. And I know from my experience in witnessing, a lot of people end up having to move out of state when they get out of prison. They don't want to be back in that scenario. They don't want to have to deal with this anymore. They want a brand new life, and it's hard to leave that. But you know, as a 7 to 12-year-old, what is it that, what resources are there for them to reach out to? Like, what do we tell them?
A school counselor, they have more school counselors on campus now. And honestly, sometimes they don't want to talk to mom and dad about it. Ironically, they'll pull away from that. And I think the best resource we have are our school counselors. We have so many on campus now. And that would be another way of reaching someone within the school, because so much of it happens on campus, is to talk to a school counselor and identify who it is. They have to speak out. They have to be not afraid to come to someone in the school system. Their teacher, maybe they have a favorite teacher that they believe in. That would be another resource. And also your pastors and your clergy would be another source. And maybe a big brother, a big sister that might be able to turn this around and say, you know, hey, I need help, you know, go to them. Don't be afraid to speak out, because that's the way we can get involved, and that's the way we can reach them before they get caught up and stop it.
And that just makes me think, if I feel like I haven't seen this, and it's probably out there, but you know, I'm kind of been involved or had this in my life. I grew up in Whittier, and very diverse area. And when you mentioned shoes earlier, that was a thing. I remember our schools getting on us for wearing different clothing. And and I remember that was something that we went to school and we had assemblies on. This is what you can wear and this is what you can't wear. And they were very, we would have to practice like drive-by shooting scenarios. And it is a scary world. Yes, but when you grow up, or when I'm going to say this, I was in prison. I wasn't in prison. I worked in the prison, and we went through that same training. Now I'm not a student. I'm not learning about it anymore. Now I'm learning how to recognize that. And you're like, oh my gosh, my school administration wasn't overdoing it. You know, as a kid, you're like, ah, this is dumb.
Right.
But then when I went into the prison system, I was like, oh,
And you learn so much within the prison system. They will open up and tell you. I had so many of them write letters. I don't know if I shared this last time we spoke, but one of the things I did with the groups that I taught is I had the inmates, if there is one way, anything that you can do to help me, would you write letters to reach our youth? If you had a way of changing your life back then, what would you tell this young person? So they wrote letters in my group, and I was able to give those to my daughter, and she read them in the classes that she spoke to and addressed gang involvement, gang bullying. And she let the children read those letters, and she said, Mom, there wasn't a dry eye in that classroom after they read the letters that you submitted. Of course, we had to take their names off for, the purpose of or their identity, but we were able to give the base of the letter to the children to read. And it really was a remarkable tool to let them see firsthand from an inmate that had been locked up for 15, 20 years, what they would do if they could change their life, by reaching out.
That has to be super impactful.
It had a big impact.
Yeah, I would assume that some kids might even have a personal direct relationship like that already at that age, kind of recognizing, when they see that stuff. Like I said, you see stuff the younger you are, and then you grow up a little bit more and you can recognize it, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's what that is. It brings that awareness,
yes, it does,
to those students to start recognizing, okay, this is what could happen, and now I can be a little bit prepared for it. So that's another thing that I wanted to ask you is, is there a movement out there? I know that you said you go to classrooms and you talk to students and you help with the youth camps and all of that, and I'm just thinking out loud, but are there posters out there at schools that these are the signs?
I'm sure on the school campuses, they have people walking campuses to try to redirect or to zoom in on maybe seeing anybody trying to gang bully on campus. I've heard this, I've read it, that they're there to observe and to ensure that kids aren't being bullied. But it happens on social media, as you know, so much. And again, you have to be aware of what your child is doing. You have to check. You have to make sure they don't have any markings as being beaten in. That's hard. You're going to find out too. They get beaten in, and you're going to see marks on them, bruises, maybe that they can't explain. That would be another a sign, to say, oh my gosh, what happened to you? And of course, you have to be aware that is part of what they do. They beat them into a game. That's one of the things to really look for. If you see any unusual markings, bruising, that sort of thing on your child, you best beware that there could be something more going on.
Right. And then of course the drug involvement, and noticing changes in that, or having an abundance of cash hidden somewhere or anything like that.
Yes, it's true.
Right.
They will have things hidden from you, and you have to look. And I know maybe some parents might say, well, we're invading their privacy, but you're ensuring your child's safety. If you're getting involved in looking, you want to protect your child. Right. And to me, it takes being vigilant as a parent. And we have to do those things to make sure that they're okay, that they're on the right path.
Right. So. And I want to let everybody, we keep on saying parents. In Tulare County, what is it, like under 10% of our student, maybe it's like 4.76%, something like that, are being parented by their grandparents.
Oh, yes.
Right. So if you take a look at those stats, there are a lot of kids, and there's 1,500 kids that are in foster care, something like that. If you take a look at that, we're not just talking about parents. We're talking about aunts and uncles making
Extended
this,
family.
recognizing this. We're talking about, hey, I'm in line at school picking up my youngest child, and I can see an older child out there on the corner, like doing something. Just be aware of what is going on in your neighborhood. I can't impress that enough. But you don't have to be just the parent.
You don't.
Right. You can really just I say step in anytime, but if you see something going on, you need to say something.
You do.
And you have every right. If it's I tell my kids all the time, I might be a little bit meaner than most parents, I guess you could say, but I'm not here to be your best friend. I'm here to be your mother. And if you're going to hate me for the next 3 months because I make a decision that might save your life, you can hate me, but you're still going to be alive.
Exactly. And when you're so on it when you say people need to get involved. They need to really, if they see something going on the street and you're driving down, which has happened to me, and I'm such a mama bear anyway, after what's happened in my own life, that I'm watching, I'm observing as I'm driving down the street. And on one occasion, maybe a couple actually, I've seen a bunch of kids walking out from school after school and seen a young man pushing another little boy. And then another little boy came and started pushing that little boy, and they were picking on him. So, I stopped, turned around and stopped my car a few feet up. And I got out and I said, I've been observing what you've been doing, you boys. Why are you picking on him? You need to stop. You need to stop doing this. So we have to call them out on what they're doing. And, because that's the only way you're going to stop these things. You have to have a voice. You have to try to redirect and hopefully get a hold of that parent if you can and let them know what their child was doing or turn it into school.
Right.
Right away.
Right.
We have to intervene.
And those students only know what they have learned on their home front, mocking other people or pushing people around. It's because it's in that cycle that they're used to that. That's all they know. So that's how they treat other people, thinking that it's okay.
Right.
And it's not really okay. And as the person who is getting or receiving this kind of treatment and the person who's giving it, that they're both kids.
Right.
And one has learned how to just deal with it. But when they grow up, they're not just, that's not going to be okay anymore. That causes a lot of stress and anxiety. That one person, that could happen one time, and they grow up having that, I'm not walking to and from school, so I'm just not going to go to school at all. Right. And I have nobody at home to really listen to me, because I'm not going to lie, most kids think that. I'm just here. Nobody wants to listen to me or talk to me, or I'm just a burden, and I don't deserve this kind of anything. So I think it's really important that when you do step up and you do say something, you are the voice of that child then and there, who is too scared to do anything.
You have to step up. You have to take initiative, and anytime something presents that there's danger to a child or something's not right, you need to step up, and you have to, get in there, get involved, talk to that child, and go to the school, share what you've seen, and I just think it's so important that we're, like you said, we're all involved in trying to help our youth. by being observant. And I don't think it's meddling when you're concerned for the safety of a child. There's no way. I mean, that parent, I would think, would thank you for stepping up and saying, you know, thank you for letting me know that my child was down at a different area. He told me he was going to the movies today, for instance, that kind of thing. And they tend to lie to us, and you have to be aware when, you know, that it could take a change. And if
Right.
it does take a change, you have to step up and get that child some counseling.
Right.
Do what you can. Take every preventive measure to get them back on the right path.
I feel like now I want to go plaster the walls everywhere. Kids really need to see what their resources are and how well they really are loved. And sometimes it doesn't have to come from the home. And I think that's another thing, is that they don't know how to receive it, especially if they don't get it at home. And
Right.
then they go to the gangs because that's what they learn, you know, like
Right.
that there's this there's this group of people who have my back. So if if you notice anybody in your family, or heck, if I saw one of my best friends and their kids were doing something dumb, I would say something. And my
Yeah.
best friend could be mad at me. Like I said, anybody can be mad at me all you want.
That's
But
true.
if this is what I'm observing, and Mary, like you worked in CDCR far longer than I have and witnessed a lot more. And now with, I'm not saying like now as in it happened recently, but with your son, you've witnessed it from every point of view at this moment. And you have so much knowledge and empathy behind the situation that it really gives you the opportunity to communicate and have that behind you. And I think that a lot of people, they don't trust somebody that's just going to come out and be like, hey, don't do this. But once they learn about Mary,
yes,
that,
they're
right?
going to hear from me. I guess, you know, like I said, I'm a mama bear, and I'm out there trying to help so that we don't have another mother face what we had to face. It's just a heartbreaking tragedy that should never happen, a senseless crime that should never happen. And I wanted to share my son, since tomorrow's Mother's Day, and this is the plaque that we had made for every mother that was involved that year that we did our Performing Arts Festival in Parsha. And this is my son, Francisco Christopher Martinez. He was 24 when we lost him. He had 3 children at the time that we lost him, with a little, we didn't know that Glory was pregnant with twins. And he never got to see his baby. They were born 2 months after he was taken, his life was taken. And, but you know what? I hold on, and my babies, his babies, they give me inspiration. They are so beautiful, and I'm so blessed to have them. And his oldest, Janessa, she made me so proud. She is working on her master's degree. And I can't tell you how thrilled we are that God has blessed us with so many blessings. My Frankie J, his second child, he was in the University of Utah as we speak, going to school, working hard. And so Kayla, she's still finding her little niche. She's an artist. She's very creative with makeup and nails, and she's thinking of going on to do that. And at Milan, I believe, is what she's working toward. And then we have Nevaeh graduating this year. So God has blessed me truly with his children. I just wanted to take a moment to share that out of our tragedy, God has blessed us with his children. And I am so thankful beyond words to be able to share that. And so it's for him that I do what I do, and for every other parent that's lost a child, because you certainly You don't ever get over that pain. You don't. You learn to go through it. And I try to help our parents as they go through these things when it happens, to learn to use the tools that they have and to have a voice for their own child. And it's about everybody's child, not just mine.
Right.
Because in helping others, we can heal. And that's why I do what I do, is to try to prevent tragedy from striking. And like I said, saving one child at a time is the biggest thing for me. If we can reach that one child and turn their life around, how much better could the world be?
Right.
You know, so I just thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, of course.
And,
I will always advocate for doing good in this world, and you are doing plenty of good in this world. And I can't remember if you said you had a website. So if somebody wants to learn more,
it's on
what is it?
Yes, it's on Facebook under Mary Martinez. And
Okay.
I thought I had the little, where it says Ann Martinez, Facebook. It's on Facebook, and it's initially on my page. If you scroll down, you'll see Mothers United Against Gang Violence on my on my page. And I had a private website, but I recently had to let it go. I'm looking for another one to restart. During the COVID, I took it down, but I'm hoping to get it reinstated because I'm hopeful to continue to move on. I've just been called by another family in Delano, and the mother lost her daughter at 45, who was shot in the back. I'm going there this coming week on Wednesday, and meeting with her and several other families that have had a loss due to gang violence, drive-bys. This happened in February, right after Valentine's Day. She left 5 children. Her name was Christina. And I can't tell you that they've been reaching out through my page. So it's doing some good, a lot of good. People are able to leave comments. They're able to post their child anniversary or birthday, which I do every month, to try and support our families everywhere, not just here in Tulare County, but everywhere. And so I wanted to share that. People are open to come to my page and share a little bit about their child if they'd like. I'm open to that. And with COVID, I've really used this time to reach out to families through prayer and their loved ones. Even during this horrible season that we're going through, COVID, I've even had people come on there, and we lost Victor, as you know, Emelina's husband, to COVID, and he was one of my biggest members. He did the camping that we do annually for our youth. We take them up to the coast, and he was a wonderful coach. He actually was a wonderful mentor. He did so much to reach our children and speak at the campfire while they were making s'mores and share his own story. And so he was a wonderful person, and I cannot say enough about the work that he did under our group. He was our DJ for every event. He got out there and played the music for the kids at the First Baptist Church every year for Halloween. He just really gave his whole soul to trying to help kids. He too had lost his mother to murder and his sister at the age of 17. And it was heartbreaking to hear his story. And that's what I believe brought Emelina and him together. Ironically, years later, they would identify they both had a loss, her brother, and he lost his mom and sister. So from that relationship, everything grew, and they got together, and they gave me 2 beautiful babies. And I can't tell you that I'm so happy that he was a part of our group and a part of our family.
Right. That having that, how do I say this? Having that history and that knowledge is it hurts. Like you're not happy that you have it, but you want to use this for good. And that in and of itself is it's one of those things that, and maybe this brings me to my one of my favorite questions to ask. What would you say is your most defining moment doing this? Is like where you were sitting there and something happened while you were working with Mothers United, and you were like, this is why God put me here. Has there been something like that has ever just ping, like, this is why I'm here?
Having children that have come up and see our booth and see all the young people that have died, and having children talk to me and say, did all these people really die in our city? And they're just like in disbelief. People are in disbelief. Many times people don't read the newspaper, and they don't have a clue what's going on in our own community. And when they come to our booth, and I have all of these young people that their lives were lost to such a senseless crime, and to have them come up and say, we're so happy that you're doing what you're doing, that you take the time to want to reach out. And have a mother tell me that, it means a lot to me, because it means that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing the right thing, that God placed me here to do, because someone has to do it. Someone has to take the time to do it. And so even in as little as it may seem to many people, an event, 2 events, 3 events a year, we're reaching out and we're putting the material out there. I go down to like Celia. I picked up from the sheriff's department. I give all the resources they have printed out to help kids to stay out of drugs, to help kids that may be having abuse in their homes, what numbers they can call. All these tool pamphlets are left on my table for people to help themselves too. That's what we do. We have resources on our table. If they want to call me, I have a sign-up sheet where that they might want to talk to me privately. They can call me and talk to me on a given day. Like this instance that I shared with you on Bonnie Mason, her daughter that just got killed in February. She reached out to me through the website, and I contacted her. They can leave their number. I contact them. And now I'm going down. God put it in my heart to do this and reach out and sit and talk with her, let her share what's going on. And hopefully God will open doors where we can have an outreach event there in their city. She's identified to me that they don't have anything. They don't have any kind of events like what we do here in Porterville when before COVID happened. And so I thought, well, if I can help them get something going in their city, and they can get going and have the tools and the people that come forward and speak and reach their families, how much better could that be?
Right.
Sharing the word and getting out there and doing the work that's needed, and hopefully getting the city official there to get on board with the Boys and Girls Club. Anything that can help the community in that way is positive to me, and that's what I do. I plant seeds as I go. I'm planting seeds for Christ and for reaching our families. And I'm very, I have to say that God has been the biggest part of my life. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't had him here in my heart.
Right.
Because he gives us the strength to move forward. He does.
Truly. Yes, he does.
It's all about him.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's moments.
Oh, honey, it says low battery, and I don't know if there's a charger.
Okay. Well, it's okay. So it is 8:55, and
okay,
I have shared out your Facebook page, and I will make sure that your link is shared out across all of my platforms. And anybody that has any questions for Mary, like I said, you can message her. Her email is also on the Facebook page. If you have any suggestions, if you want to volunteer your time, if you feel that there's an area that needs to have outreach completed or a school that we need to connect with because you see heavy activity in the area, please don't hesitate in letting us know. You always know where I'm at. And if you need to get a hold of Mary, I spend every other weekend with her daughter, Emelina, for hours and hours a day. So just get a hold of me or get a hold of Mary or get a hold of Emelina, and let us know what you need, what kind of help you need. And Mary, is there anything else that you want to say before we close up with Brewing?
Yes, I just want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day and to tell them not to give up on their child too. There's hope, and to know that, yes, we can do something to help their children. And, the biggest thing is staying involved, not giving up on your child. Get the resources that are out there to help you with your child. Don't be ashamed to talk to someone, even if it's your doctor. Talk to your doctor if you know no one else. And that doctor, I'm sure, would have resources as well, and how to get you into counseling. I worked at the Porterville Youth Incorporated here as a mental health psychiatric nurse, and I can tell you many children would come through there. And I would talk during my journey there as a nurse. I would talk to these children coming through, and just having a kind word to encourage them and inspire them is so important. And I just want to say that. Thank you so much for having me. God bless everyone watching this today. And, use your pastor, use your clergy. That's a big resource right there in helping your child.
Right.
And so I want to thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. And I'm going to echo what you said, Mary. Don't be scared. Don't be ashamed.
Exactly. Don't be ashamed. Reach out. Don't, because you're saving that child. You're helping your child to get back on the right path.
Right.
And that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything.
Yeah. All right. You guys know how to get a hold of us. Maybe once we get some more news on a website or an event where we can set up maybe like a series of events in our little rural areas. Let us know if you want to be involved in that. And Mary, if you need anything ever, just give me a call. You can come back on and share anytime.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day. You did such a great job with your children, Mary.
Thank you. I'm blessed. I am so blessed.
You guys really have a beautiful family. So
thank you.
Everybody have a great Mother's Day weekend. Be safe. Take care of each other, hug each other, be patient, talk to each other, accept each other, all of that good shenanigans. So this is our episode of What's Brewing with Mothers United Against Gang Violence. And my guest today was Mary Martinez, and she is the founder, and all of her information is in the Facebook thread. And have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you. God bless.